I'm just a guy in a paint-covered shirt headed to work, so there's no reason to assume that I know what I'm talking about. But I've really had a good time over the last 38 years writing loads and loads of songs, and they've never gotten anywhere. But I've had a really good time doing it, and I think that's an important thing. I want to talk about an idea that I have for reharmonizing, recontextualizing a melody that's occurred to you. I don't know if you write from the melody, if that's what comes first. I often do. Sometimes I'll get the whole thing at once, but sometimes I'll just wake up with a melody in my head, or there's just a melody that drifts in, and I try to put it down. And in my head, maybe there's just sort of a general vibe around it in terms of the harmonization. Sometimes it's just an ambiguous sort of idea, and then I go to an instrument, whether it's a piano or a guitar or maybe my bass even sometimes, and I just start, singing the melody. Maybe a couple of lyrics have popped into my head by this time, and attempting to create a structure around this that kind of matches the feeling of what this thing seems to intend to become. And here's a thing that I've used, and I used this a couple times really recently. If you're one of your go-tos is a guitar, I really recommend taking a guitar around you and putting it into a tuning that you're not intimately familiar with. Okay, say maybe put it, if you're usually playing in standard, put that thing in DAD, GAD, or DAD, F sharp, AD, something like that. If you're used to maybe one of those, try putting it into standard, things like that. And then what you'll do is, if you have this melody lingering around in your head, go to that instrument in open position, and just kind of pick just the melody, play just the melody. And then try to work that around chord shapes from another tuning. This is where it introduces the element of almost chaos. It's not chaos, but it can feel like that, because you tend to uncover some really, bizarre shapes and different harmonizations that might otherwise occur to you. Especially if you've already tried this on an instrument that where you're used to the tuning, used to those ideas, and it feels a little stale to you. So if you try to reharmonize it using shapes from your experience in a tuning that you don't know that well, there's weird stuff that can come out of that. And if you know all the tunings well, you might have to invent some new ones or something, and go somewhere really strange. And by navigating this melody through these shapes that your hand is already familiar with, I think there's something that sometimes is uncovered there that's worth taking note of, and can be interesting to play around with, and can teach your brain something about these relationships. And there's often a little spark of kind of discovery and adventure in this, and that's one of the things that keeps you coming back, and that why it's rewarding to do this in anonymity. Every day of my life is for these little moments of adventure that can happen, where you follow this melody on a journey into some other kind of terrain. So yeah, try it out, and if you, on the rare chance that you might see this, let me know what happens.